Hi, everyone. Here we are with Intros and Conclusions Part 2. We left off last time after we talked about hooks. And so we're going to pick up with talking about the second and third part of the introduction, which is the summary and the thesis. So the summary is actually pretty simple. It's very short, sweet, and to the point. It introduces the name of the text, the author, and a general 1 to 2 sentence summary of the text. Notice you're not telling every single detail that happened. You're just giving a very general summary. For example, the play The Crucible by Arthur Miller dramatizes the events of 1692 Salem witchcraft trials, where teenage girls claimed that there were witches in the community and started a hysteria that led to many deaths. Short, sweet, to the point. Also notice that whenever throughout this PowerPoint I use the title of the play, it's always in italics. That's a grammar rule. Any plays, books, movies, TV shows are always italicized. Then we get to your thesis, which you already wrote. Your thesis should go at the end of your introduction, just like the video said. It should be the last sentence. You have to build up to it. You may need a sentence or phrase to help you transition smoothly from your summary to your thesis statement. It can be a transition phrase, or it might be a sentence that connects one to the next. Just make sure that whichever you do, getting from your summary to your thesis is really smooth and clear for your reader. Now we're going to get into conclusions. But before we do, again, I have a little video, a cool video that introduces the main idea of conclusions. This will talk a little bit about mentioning solutions to problems. That doesn't work quite as well with what we're doing. We're working on more of a literary essay rather than a fact-based, argumentative essay. But there is a lot of good stuff in here. So we're going to take a few minutes to watch this.
Writing a killer conclusion, a la Schmuck. How much would you enjoy Iron Man if you never found out whether or not Tony Stark got the baddie?
Where did you go?
Imagine how unsatisfied you'd feel if every episode of your favorite sitcom ended at the 20-minute mark. Or how frustrated you'd be if we never ever finished this sentence. Conclusions are key. Without them, a story or essay flops and flounders. Everything worth telling deserves a well-conceived ending. Even our own lives will eventually have a conclusion. We just have to cross our fingers and hope there's going to be a sequel. Okay, so you're reading an essay that someone wrote and blam, no conclusion. Immediately, you probably ask yourself, so what? Why in the world did I just read all this stuff? What's the point, or what's the moral of the story? And why am I asking all these questions out loud? We can't help you with the last one. Maybe you just like the sound of your own voice. But as for the rest of it, it makes sense you'd be irritated. You just invested a lot of time and energy into reading something, and no one's coming along to suggest what you should think of it and why. What are you supposed to do? Think on your own? But honestly, when you provide a thought-provoking conclusion, it's not like you're encouraging laziness on the part of the reader. The conclusion is merely your last chance to get the reader to see your side of the argument, and hopefully to agree with you. So how do you accomplish that, aside from offering a monetary incentive? You need to pull out all the stops, appeal to the reader's emotions, introduce a twist, basically whatever it takes, as long as it's legal. Because an argument essay will frequently be presenting a problem of some kind. A conclusion is a good place to offer a solution. Sure, oil spills may be increasing in frequency, but it would certainly be less of a downer if you had an idea or two about how to prevent such tragedies from occurring. However, you have to be careful not to introduce a major point and then leave it undeveloped within your conclusion. That's sort of like saying to your parents on the way out of the house, "Oh, by the way, I wrecked the car last night, toodles." Chances are that little snippet is going to leave your audience wanting to hear more. Think about the below questions anytime you're nearing the end of an essay. Pick at least one, and make that the subject of your conclusion. What is an interesting, original way to restate my main points? It's been a while since the beginning of your paper. Remind your reader why they're here in the first place. Explain how the preceding points help to support that main idea, and hopefully your reader will now look at things in a slightly or drastically different way. What's important or interesting about the points I've made? There must be some reason you chose to write about whatever you chose to write about. Let your interest and passion in the subject matter shine through. Make your reader understand why they should care.
Because I'm killing, that's why.
What can readers take away from my essay that is useful or that might shed light on their own lives or the world around them? People will always pay more attention to something if it is made personal to them. Someone may not give two hoots about the dwindling barn owl population, but if the reader is informed that barn owls are the only creatures that know the meaning of life, their interest may be suddenly piqued. Of course, you don't want to make stuff up just for the sake of intrigue. As we all know, barn owls have far more questions than answers. If I'm describing a problem in my paper, what might be a possible solution? Well, you might have some strong feelings on the subject. Now it's time to lay it on your reader. Just how are we going to solve the financial crisis? What can we do to prevent further melting of the polar ice caps? How will we be able to produce 100% edible sneakers? Whatever your tactic, make sure that you are passionate, engaging, and knowledgeable. And whatever you do, don't skip the conclusion. It's as unsatisfying for a reader as...
Okay, so here we go. So our conclusion has two parts, a restatement of your thesis and a clincher. Restating the thesis. Restating the thesis means writing the thesis again, just in different words. Why would we do that? Why not just use the same words? Because putting it into different words is a stylistic thing that makes your writing sound more sophisticated. Your reader's going to recognize if you use the same sentence more than once, so vary it up for them. It also reminds the reader what your main idea was. It's been a little while since your introduction and since you stated your thesis, so this is a good reminder to your audience about what you're talking about. Here's an example of a thesis and then the thesis restated. Governor Danforth is the most despicable character in The Crucible because of his inflexibility and concern for his own career. I took those same ideas and just put them into different words and into a different sentence format. There are many characters in The Crucible who are easy to despise, but none more than Governor Danforth. His rigid nature and lack of concern for anyone but himself make him incredibly deplorable. Then the clincher. This is maybe one of the more difficult parts of the essay. The clincher is the final sentence or two of your essay where you drive your point home, finish your paper strongly, and leave your reader with some deep thoughts to ponder. As synonym.com says, the idea is to clinch or seize the reader's attention until the very end, finishing a piece of writing in a way that feels complete. It should not merely be a summary or introduce topics or ideas not covered in the paper. So how do I do it? Well, like I just said, don't introduce new ideas or information. Stick to what you talked about in the essay. Use strong, vivid language and imagery to make your point. And refer back to your hook in your intro. This is a super awesome tactic and it's very sophisticated. Refer back to your hook in your intro, but don't just repeat it. Add on to it. Say more about it. Take it farther and deeper and leave your audience with something to think about. Here's an example. This was one of the hooks that we talked about at the first PowerPoint, thinking about strength and using the Oxford English Dictionary. In my clincher, I'm going to refer back to that definition, but add on to it. So my clincher says, in the end, therefore, we should remember that the strongest among us aren't always those who can lift the most weight. Oftentimes, they are the people who are willing to take on the weight of the world, so we don't have to. I hope this all made sense. I hope this provided some help and guidance. Remember that I will be answering questions in Google Classroom via the question function. So if you have any questions or want to check a quote or a warrant or a hook or a clincher, go ahead and post in there. I'll have my computer with me at the conference. Over the weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, you're more than welcome to email me with any questions. I hope you have a great, great, great Thanksgiving weekend. I'm so thankful for all of you, and I will see you when I get back.